Inca elders taught that in ancient times their land was suddenly plunged into darkness that lasted for days. There is absolutely no light. Then suddenly appeared, descending out of heaven, a white man of large stature and authoritative demeanor. This man had such great power that he changed the hills into valleys, and from the valleys made great mountains, causing the streams to flow from living stone. The appearance of Jesus Christ at the Temple of Bountiful to the Nephites is one of the most important events in all human history. I believe that event took place at Cahuachi, a temple complex near the city of Nazca in Peru. Welcome to another episode of Discovering the Book of Mormon through Science and Exploration. After the destruction that occurred at the crucifixion of Christ, the surviving Nephites in the area gathered to their temple, and it is there that Jesus Christ appeared to them. Besides the main temple, there is an entire religious complex at Cahuachi. Archaeologists Helena Silverman and Donald Prolix write, Cahuachi was not an urban site. Supported by Gillespie Ofrisi's 17-year excavation of the site, which further demonstrates its hyper-ceremonial nature. For example, Ofrisi has discovered a step-foot temple dated to Nazca 150 BC to 100 AD. This is the earliest ceremonial structure thus far identified in Cahuachi. Surely there are other Nazca 1 ceremonial constructions waiting to be unearthed. The step-foot temple shows that Cahuachi was a sacred site from its earliest Nazca occupation. In rooms on the north side of the temple, Ofrisi discovered a cache of hundreds of broken panpipes. These rooms may have stored the ritual paraphernalia used in the ceremonies, as well as being facilities for the curation of damaged or obsolete symbolic charged objects. Strong already had recovered ritual paraphernalia from the great temple, including fine pottery, colored feathers, and llama remains suggestive of sacrifice and feasting. End quote. The Metropolitan Art Museum of New York notes about Cahuachi, the temple complex, resting on the banks of the Nazca River, was the most important ceremonial site in southern Peru. Sprawling over 40 low-lying hills capped with adobe structures, Cahuachi was a pilgrimage center that brought thousands of worshippers to the region. There are several clues that point to the temple complex at Cahuachi as being the place where Christ first appeared to the Nephites. The city and its temple dated to the period when Christ visited the Nephites. It was a traditional pilgrimage site or place of gathering, a natural place for the people to have gathered from their calamities. The temple covers 370 acres and would have been large enough for the surviving Nephites to have assembled. The temple at Cahuachi was used for sacrificing llamas. The Cahuachi temple appears to have had a lay priesthood. The Cahuachi temple ceremonies was codified, memorized, and passed down from one generation to the next. A central theme of the Nazca faith was asking God for agricultural fertility, compared to Alma 34:21-25. However, the most important reason for believing that Jesus Christ appeared to the Nephites at Cahuachi is that the people there, the Nazca people, believed in Viracocha, the bearded white god. Gary Horton from Harvard University recorded the ethnographical testimonies of the people living at Sierra Blanco in the Nazca Valley. He writes, in ancient times, before there were aqueducts in the valley, a great drought occurred and the people had no water for years. The people began crying out to their god, Viracocha or Con. They cried and screamed the word nay, Quechua for pain. The people went en masse to the foot of Cerro Blanco, which was their principal temple, or adoracio, which was the place where they spoke to the gods. At that moment, Viracocha descended from sky to the summit of the mountain and heard the weeping of his people. He was so moved by their cries that he began weeping, and tears flowed from his eyes. We believe from this oral tradition of the Nazca people that 1. Their god was Viracocha, the bearded white god of the Andes. 2. The Nazca people believed that they had a personal relationship with Viracocha, even to the point that he could intervene on their behalf and end a drought. 3. Viracocha answered prayers. 4. Special prayers were offered at the temple. 5. Even in the heavens, their God had the form of a man who could hear, have compassion, and weep tears of concern and love. 6. Their white God descended from heaven. And 7. Viracocha wept on the Temple Mount. Although our knowledge is still limited, I'm amazed at the apparent similarities between this story of the Nazca people and the account of the Nephites at Bountiful that's found in the Book of Mormon. They saw that they were about to perish by famine, and they began to remember the Lord their God, and they began to remember the words of Nephi. And the people began to plead with the chief judges and their leaders that they would say unto Nephi, Behold, we know that thou art a man of God, and therefore cry unto the Lord our God that he turn away from us this famine, lest all the words which thou hast spoken concerning our destruction be fulfilled. The Lord did turn away his anger from the people, and caused that rain should fall upon the earth, insomuch that it did bring forth her fruit in the season of her fruit. And it came to pass that it did bring forth her grain in the season of her grain. And behold, the people did rejoice and glorify God. Helaman 11:7-9, 17-18. As for the Lord weeping for his people at Bountiful, this took place when he descended to the temple where the survivors had gathered. During the early Nazca periods 1 and 2, 150 BC to 100 AD, the Nazca faithful performed pilgrimages to their temple. Cahuachi was the principal pilgrimage site where the people came to offer animal sacrifices. We can also assume that the Nephites would have practiced annual temple pilgrimages where they sacrificed animals. When the temple existed in Jerusalem, the Israelites practiced 3 pilgrimages: Passover, Pentecost, and Tabernacle. Music was a primary means of expression of the Nazca faith. Orpheus quotes, For the Nazca people, music was one of the indispensable means of expressing the collective religious spirit, constituting a true and proper choral language with which it was possible to communicate with the divine. End quote. Figurines of individuals playing sandpipes, trumpets, and drums have been discovered in Nazca ruins. Instruments used on the temple grounds of Jerusalem, though not in ceremonies itself, included silver trumpets, flutes, harps, lutes, and brass cymbals. Of course, the most important piece of evidence that we have that Nazca and Cahuachi was the place where the Lord appeared to the Nephite people is that they believed in Viracocha, the bearded white god, who answered their prayers, ended their droughts, and wept tears for them. Discover more about the Book of Mormon by subscribing to this channel. You can do so by clicking below. It's entirely free. Or you can visit our website, christinperu.com. That's one word, christinperu.com. You can learn about our books and our annual tours to Peru. Thank you.